Hey, what's up everybody? Adobe Masters here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to add camera shake to your video in Adobe After Effects. Adding camera shake is pretty important if you do a tripod shot or if you just want to add some a physical element to it. So if like a bullet hits nearby, a little camera shake can make it really have an impact. And if you have a really just like a tripod shot, the golden rule is to keep the camera moving. So if there's just a tripod shot in a film that just doesn't look right, it just looks too boring, too plain, you can add a little bit of camera sway, like someone's holding the camera, to add a little bit more action to it. And so right here, let's just take a look at the effect. So what I did was I did some really intense camera shake and then like a little tint of red there. You can see like maybe, I don't know, you could add like an explosion back here or something fly by. But yeah, there's another camera shake right there. So what you can do is you have complete control over the camera shake. You can make it just consistent throughout it. You can make it random, like more random. You can make it extremely intense, then kind of back off. You have a lot of control with using this method. So let's go ahead and go up into the composition, create a new composition. We're going to have comp 1, standard settings of 1080p, click OK. And here we are presented with this new composition. So let's go into our project and let's grab our piece of footage right here, drop it in. Zoom this in a little bit. And okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to go into here and we are going to search for something called slider control. And then we are going to go up into layer, click down on the composition, layer, new, and then null object. So we're going to take the slider control and we're going to drag it onto the null object. And now we have a slider here, and you see it's an expression control. All that means is that it's just a slider. It's going to do absolutely nothing until we attach something to it. The way we're going to attach something to it is through an expression. So for example, if we just go down here and we go to transform, any of these stopwatches, you can hold the Alt key and click on the stopwatch. So I'm holding the Alt key, click on position, you see it'll go red, and then the expression control comes under it. And this is where you can type just a little bit of code. It lets you get into like the nitty-gritty parts of After Effects to manipulate it just the way that you want. So if we just went ahead and grabbed this whip tool right here, go and select null 2 where the slider control is, go to the whip tool and drag it on up to the slider control, you'll see the slider now has control over the position of the object. So I can drag it over here, I can drag it here, and it's going to go 944 by 944. That's why it's going in a diagonal, because we're drawing a perfect line down the center here with positioning. And what's cool is now we don't even have to touch the transform in here. We can just go up to null 2. We can set a keyframe here, go over here, set another keyframe, and you'll see that we now have this moving thing. We haven't ever actually touched the composition. That's because the code here, when I drag the slider, says that when we're looking for position, we're going up to the slider and we're going to read whatever the slider is to grab the position. We're going to ignore what these are because all we're going to look for is here. So we can just do that right now. Okay, so then the next step, we need to actually make this sort of, shake around. So we're going to go in here, we're just going to delete this right here, and it's going to go back to just being position center. It's going to delete the thing that we've been doing out of there. We're going to hold the Alt key again and hit position. And we're going to delete transform.position, and we're going to use an expression called wiggle, W-I-G-G-L-E. And then in parentheses, we have two things we have to put in here. The first one is its intensity. So right here is its intensity. And then the second one is how much we want it to wiggle. So if we put 50 here, then it'll wiggle 50 pixels back and forth. So these are the two variables that we have to put in here to get this to work. So the first one, we could set this to a slider if we really wanted to, or we can just input a number. So I'm just going to input, this is how extreme, how fast it's going to wiggle. So let's go with 5. That's a pretty medium-sized wiggle. And then with how much, we aren't actually going to put a number. We're going to go click on null 2 again, come back to the wiggle expression, and you see it's giving me an error because we haven't actually, we have a problem here. So go here, click on the wiggle, and then we're going to go right into here. So we're going to have this being like the cursor inside the second variable. We're going to click this little drag tool, and we are going to drag it up to our slider. And you will see that now this second part, the how much, is now under control of the slider. So if we put this down to 0, it's not going to wiggle anything. But if we put it to maybe like 20, you'll see pretty violent shaking going back and forth. And I forgot that the slider's still on, so it was going up to 600 back down to 20. If we just put here, turn off the keyframes, go to 20, now we can see that it just shakes just a little bit the whole time. Really consistent camera shake, and it's a random camera shake. So you could add this into a tripod shot and make it look okay. However, we want this to be a little more under our control, and so we can do what we did last time, and we can create the little keyframe button here. And then if you drop down the null, go into Effects, Slider Control, you can control the keyframes here. So we can start it off at 0, go to here, then we're going to click another keyframe, so there's zeros all the way in between here. Then we're going to go advance by 1, bring this up to 120, and then kind of have it just die down slowly over maybe like a second, so back down to 0. And that gives like sort of an explosion sort of look. So boom, big hit, and then it kind of goes back down, back into normal. But you see, the big hit here has a problem. We have black on the edge of the screen because it's moving the object out of the 1080p. And this is only 1080p, so there's not any room to adjust on the sides. So then, we're going to go into our effects, and we're going to search Motion Tile. We're going to grab Motion Tile, click on it, and drag it into our footage right here. So now we have Motion Tile here. What we want to do is we want to hit Mirror Edges, so it's going to mirror the sides here, and then Output Width, bring that up just to 200, 300, and output height as well. And now what this is doing is it's mirroring the image on each side really quickly. If you do too extreme here, the mirror is going to look a little weird. You can see that the mirror is kind of weird if we just slow it down. But if we speed it up, you won't be able to see the mirror because everything's moving so fast, it doesn't actually look like anything is different. And when you have a lot of randomness in the background, a little duplication on the edges doesn't look that noticeable. It just looks like that building's longer, not that it's being duplicated. Same with that building back there. So you can get away with some intense stuff. Now let's say instead of us starting this slider control at 120, we went to like, 1476, you can see we start to get some really weird things. The top starts to mirror onto the bottom here, and that would probably create an issue here. But as you can see, it almost actually doesn't. It just looks like the camera moves so fast that you couldn't even see something. So you can actually get a lot of leeway with using the mirror edges, and it helps sell the final effect here. And that about does it on how to add camera shake. So what we did was we just added an expression, attached it to a slider on a null object, which just means an object that, is meaningless. It's just there to hold things. And then just controlled the camera motion from this. Really neat effect, really powerful tool to have in your After Effects knowledge base. Anyway, that's it for the tutorial. Thanks everyone for joining me. If you want to see more Adobe related content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you got any comments, questions, or suggestions for future tutorials, throw those in the comments below. And until next time guys, see ya.